All right, emergency episode. This is Geographically Challenged episode 91. We were not meant to be recording today, but something has happened. Something has occurred. Bleh and Pilski are ready to eat their words. They've been receiving all of the hate on the YouTube comments.
I'm so upset. I'm so upset. I cannot believe that an Asian team from the region I've been a part of for more than 10 years has won a tournament. Like, that's the worst thing that could possibly happen.
Yeah,
honestly.
Exactly.
you know, my favorite part is like any time, you know, like there's these old clips of us from like maybe like 2-3 years ago. There's especially a funny one where I think it's Neo when Mzinho first came into this roster and he was like, I don't fucking understand this change, which is like fair enough at the time. Like it was a fucking bonkers decision to add him and 910. And he's like, yeah, I don't think this is a good decision, blah, blah, blah. And to this day, people still go and find that clip. And then whenever something good happens, they're like, what about now, bro? It's like, well, yeah, obviously it's different 3 years later. Like,
yeah,
what do
legit.
Fucking hindsight Henry's
like,
everywhere.
yeah, legit. That's like every esports fan. They're like, no one will make a prediction before things happen, and then when things go well, they're like, yeah, I told you, bro.
I told you so. Yeah, I told you all along.
I would be the best analyst in the world if I just knew everything that was going to happen as well.
Yep. Anyway, look, obviously, before we do jump too far into the conversation, we do have to give a quick shout out to Skinclub once again. We are making content over on Skinclub. We just made an ANZ top 20 tier list. If you're interested in
that really popped off, by the way.
You should have seen the conversation on Twitter, mate. I knew it. Yeah. I know it would because like I feel like people always like really get around that kind of thing, and they always have their opinions. And I think generally people were not like actually that mad about what we said. So I feel like we've done a pretty good job. So go us. But if you're interested in watching that one, you can go check it out. There'll be a link in the description to the Skinclub community platform where there's a bunch of videos like that one. We made one for Asia as well last month if you're interested in that kind of thing. So do recommend you go check it out, and shout out to Skinclub again for helping us out here on Geographically Challenged. But let's jump into the bulk of the episode. Let's jump into the meat and potatoes, as they say. I'm back from Riyadh. And so is the Mongolz, or so are the Mongolz. I don't know if they're actually back yet. They probably have only just left. But I've just got off of a 15-hour flight, so I'm still kind of almost catching up with this news. But obviously, as you can see, the Mongolz have won the Esports World Cup. This is the first, quote-unquote, first S-tier win for an Asian team in a very, very long time, unless you count Yellow Compass, which now, especially in hindsight with what's going on over there, probably doesn't count, unfortunately, for the Mongolz because they didn't even get paid for it. So rip for that. Speaking of which, there'll be more conversations around not getting paid later on in the episode. But anyway,
I heard about like all of the stuff happening with the Yellow Compass like through the grapevine, but I didn't know they didn't pay out the prize money.
I believe that's the case.
They didn't.
Yeah.
Yep.
They didn't pay out the talent and they didn't pay out the prize money.
That's fucked.
However, I think we can start off by saying, 15 years. I looked it up. It was 2010 WEG, which was the last event ever won by S-tier event ever won by an Asian team, and it was the Koreans, right? They were We Made Fox at a point in time. They beat EG, which had like fraud, nothing, very famous players right there. They beat Frag Executioners, which is basically a Taz, Neo, Lord Cuban, those guys, the Polish Golden Five, the original Golden Five. And in the end, in the finals, they beat out SK Gaming, who had players like Roban, Delpan, and these boys, right? So legit win. 15 years is a long fucking time, man. It's a long fucking time. And I said this as well. I'm like, for the Mongols, being the Irish racist that I am, as some people have pointed out in the YouTube chat and everything, I always said that they're incredible. They're the best team in the modern day era, but they need to win an S-tier event. And what I mean by S-tier event is it needs to have almost all the top teams and a big prize pool.
Which this team
obviously had that. That's an S-tier event. And I've heard a few conversations, people are like, yeah, it's not really an S-tier event. It's not Kato or like Kelowna or Major. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, dude, it's an S-tier event.
You know what?
You love moving the goalposts, so.
You can find caveats in like literally any if I wanted to be the devil's advocate, I'd be like, oh, well, it was single elim, and they only actually really had to beat Vitality. Like, Vitality is the only top 14 that they actually
beat. They've beaten twice now in back-to-back events as well.
I know, but like at the end of the day, it's like, what do you want? You know what I mean? Like, they've tough 2 to Major. They've now won EWC. I think we can fairly say, like, obviously, the title of our previous episode was Major Fluke, ? And that obviously got everyone riled up a little bit. But
clickbaiting cunt.
You know what I've done for this one? Obviously, we haven't even recorded the episode yet, but I've already made the thumbnail, and it says, it wasn't a fluke. So there you go. How about that one? But that's kind of where I'm at, Like, I mean, I think people obviously...
Wait, what are you wearing right now, Jordan? What is that?
That's a Mongolz.
that?
That's a Mongolz jacket right there, mate. and actually, by the way, there's an XSE jacket here as well. So shout out XSE one time. They did some good stuff over in China as well.
Can we jump in straight up into the topic, which everyone's had. We've had disagreements on, and with our audience and everything. But are they the greatest Asian Counter-Strike team?
This is the gift that keeps on giving. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
New title, new thumbnail.
But we have to address this.
Just gotta renew the one we've already.
They are not the greatest Asian team of all time until.
And I will say this because I said it. I mean, the moment they win an S tier event this year, if they do it, they will be the greatest. I'm just gonna put it out there, in my opinion. And yes, you can always have caveats, right? Like you said, Jordan, single elimination, right? And they've only had this run at the top. It's been just for like a year right now, kind of, right? It's cracking the top 10 to right now. And if you compare it to the Koreans, when they had a longer time period of them being contenders, etc., etc., etc. But in my opinion, I'll just say it out there: they're the greatest Counter-Strike team we've ever had from Asia. Period. That's it. Like, I don't think there's any argument to be made. They've won events, won an S-tier event, taking down the best team in the world, right? A couple of events back to back, reached major finals, multiple back-to-back playoff runs right there. And you look at their age and how young they are, and how they've managed to hold on to the top, and how they keep breaking the next barrier, so to speak, every couple of months. For me, I think they've done enough. They're the best we've ever had.
And they've done it in an extremely competitive era of Counter-Strike as well. There's been previous, maybe like year or two where people would have been able to say like, oh, these top teams, like they're still kind of going through a bit of a transition phase or this or that. But like the reality is, obviously, Vitality was looking fantastic at the start of this year. Falcons is a super team. Mouse is looking great. Obviously, Spirit making upgrades as well. We've seen a bunch of other teams actually kind of doing pretty well. Yes, there are some teams that are maybe looking a little bit weaker than they have in previous years. You look at your phases, you look at even your Auroras, obviously have been on a bit of a downward trajectory, even though that they, for example, made the grand final here at EWC. But I think in general, at least especially towards the top end of Counter-Strike, like I'm talking the top 1 to 5 teams, we're in a very competitive era at this stage. So that I think is an extra tick in the book here of the Mongolz. And I think this is where you actually start to get into the conversation around, well, not only obviously we can, I think, just say, yeah, I agree, Mongolz is the best Asian team we've ever seen, period, regardless of what iteration of Counter-Strike we're talking about at this point in time. I'm prepared to say that as someone who never watched We Made Fox. But anyway, on top of that, like at what point do we start to talk about Mongolz as being like one of the best teams in the world? Like, I mean, we already knew that they were quote unquote one of the best teams in the world, but like I'm talking like one of like the 2 or 3 best teams, not like 5 or 6, you know what I mean? Like, how far have they gotten in your guys' mind to that point now? Because Vitality, I think people would probably still say, are number 1. But if we're talking power rankings, if we're talking today, the 25th of August, 2025, I think Mongolz is a better team than Vitality right now. You know what I
mean? On this day, yes, because I put out a tweet yesterday as well after Vitality lost to Falcons. Right, and map 3 just got absolutely battered by Falcons. I saw an interview from Zaiwu as well, saying like there's a hit in the confidence. And I'll tell you this: the Vitality I saw in EWC is a very far cry. Again, taking nothing away from the teams that that beat them, Mongolz, Falcons, and all these guys. This is a very different Vitality from what we saw in the first half, where they had killer instinct, they had that killer's edge, where they knew, or you knew, you're watching them, they're like 110 down, and you still know there's a world that these guys are going to come back in and just completely just run away with the fucking series, right? So Vitality are definitely on a downturn right now. And I don't expect that to last. I think there's just too much class in the team for that to happen.
I don't think so either. And I think obviously Spirit making changes as well. That's like a caveat for this event too. But like, there's a lot of like caveats, I suppose. But my point is that like we definitely have to be in a position now where Mongolz is like considered part of that like elite club with the other teams in the top 4.
Yes and no. Yes, because they have taken a Vitality a couple of back-to-back events. They have won EWC, which is a big fucking deal, right? But for me, I'm looking at the elite, like the topmost would be Vitality, obviously, even with the struggles I've had right now. Then Mouse and Spirit, right? These are the 3 teams you're talking about in contention for being the absolute favorites, with Mongolz kind of being the dark horse. For me, they're on the line between the two. They're S tier, but they're also kind of elite on a good day. But if I had to see Mongolz go up against Mouse or Spirit right now in any tournament, I wouldn't necessarily pin them as a favorites there, right? I would be like, yep, they are. They can definitely put up a fight. They can get the win, but they aren't favorites yet. So I wouldn't put them in the same conversation as a Vitality right now or a Spirit, who have won 2, big events, especially winning Cologne and everything. And they did kind of dumpster Mongolz there. So like, I feel like they're there, but they're not right there. They're not at the tippity top, but they are in a conversation as a team who, for me, would be a dark horse to win an event.
Are they like kind of like a gatekeeper, I guess, in a way? You know what I mean? Like, I honestly kind of feel like
everyone else below, yes.
Yeah, they're kind of at that point where it's like they're clearly better than everybody else, but maybe still needing a little bit to get over the line to kind of join the names like Vitality and Spirit, I guess.
Just a couple more events, right? Like, because we saw the interview from Techno as well. It's like, this is such a big boost to our confidence. And they've said it's at every big event. Like, they reach a first arena playoffs in Shanghai, right? And then they continue to make arena playoff runs after that. And then they finally get to the finals of an event, and they're starting to make these super deep runs in playoffs. We saw it like in the season after they made it in Austin at the end of last season. And now they're winning events, right? So it's a lot of a confidence boost as well. And I feel like at the end of the year, they will be in conversation as the apex, no pun intended, team in Counter-Strike. But not yet. Okay. But they're right there.
All right. Well, I want to direct this one in your direction, Pilski. I think it was you last episode that at least you were the one that was receiving all the hate in the YouTube comments. I can tell you that.
Oh, really? I haven't read them yet. Wait, yeah. I need to go back.
There's a few that are like, this podcast sucks. Pilski needs to leave. And I was like, whoa, okay.
Appreciate it. Thanks for watching.
Was it you that was kind of like, I think the terminology of what you said was something like, this raises some questions, right? Because of the result that Mongolz had at Cologne, where they lost to Na'Vi, and we were all a bit like, oh, that wasn't really quite it. Now, since that episode has come out, we have heard that the Mongolz, quote unquote, did not practice going into Cologne, and obviously that was a discussion point. So, does this result kind of change your opinion at all?
Going into IEM Cologne, then that's probably a bit questionable when you're one of the best teams in the world. I think that's kind of crazy if you didn't believe that personally. I don't know what the circumstances surrounding that were. I mean, I think, Mongolz are undoubtedly one of the best teams in the world. The only thing that I want to see from them is they're beating Vitality in head-to-head matchup, which is insane. Like that. You really cannot fuck with that. Although, Vitality are really playing their B game at the moment. It's not Vitality in their peak form that they're beating, but still beating Vitality, you can't fuck with that. The thing that I want to see from Mongolz is I just want to see them beat Spirit or Mouse in a final, or even Falcons in a final or something like that.
Or in the playoffs,
that's the thing that I need to I mean, they beat Falcons in Cologne, for example. So I mean that's a good result.
They beat Vitality twice. Is it twice in a row they beat Vitality now?
The thing is, the competitiveness of the era is the reason why Mongolz are playing against some of these other teams. It's not their fault that they're just beating the teams in front of them. They're beating Vitality multiple times, but let's be honest, upsets are leading to Aurora, being in the final and things like this. You know what I mean? So I think at the end of the day, they're just beating the teams that are in front of them, and those are not always the crazy impressive names. But when at EWC, for example, you have teams getting upsets like Heroic and stuff like that over Spirit, for example, in a single elim tournament. Aurora, they beat FaZe, I guess. I mean, that's not that surprising, to be fair. A G2 goes out early. Mouse goes out to Falcons, for example, in this single elim tournament. When you get some of these upsets, it's where deeper in the bracket, things are going to get a little bit less competitive in theory, right? Or Na'Vi gets taken out by 3D Max in the first round, who's the team that gave Mongolz trouble in Cologne, for example. So it's not Mongol's fault at the end of the day. They're just beating the teams that are in front of them, and they're doing very well. But that's all I want to see. I'm not even saying I'm not saying they're bad. I'm not saying that they're not an elite S tier team. They are. But that's the last question that I have. The only last question that I have is I want to see you beat Vitality in peak form. I want to see you beat Mouse. I want to see you beat fucking Falcons in a best of 5 final. I want to see you beat Spirit in a best of 5 final, because last time they played Spirit, 2 of those maps were very close. The last map wasn't close, which is kind of similar actually to what they did against Aurora, really. Mongolz, which really impressed me. The way that they played that final really impressed me, because that was just nothing but class. That honestly made me feel a lot more confident about them. But I'd want to see them play a final like that against if they played a peak Mouse or a peak Vitality in a final like that.
Is this real?
That would not be a 3-0,
What am I looking at here? Oh, is this just one map? oh, this is just Nuke. I was like, has Senzu dropped to 2.59 over an entire series? No, that's just Nuke. That was just Nuke.
Senzu went crazy on Nuke. Was he like 26-6 or something?
Yeah, he was just unplayable on Nuke.
He went crazy.
25.
Let's talk about Techno.
Yeah, that's where I want to go with this one, man, because obviously, Techno MVP. Shout out to fucking Techno, man, because look, he was in a bit of a rough period. Like, I think probably the first 6 months of this year for Techno has been a pretty rough run. I don't know if we can even see it maybe on like his. If I go to his stats, and
I'll try to look it up.
Just have a little bit of a look at like his just the number. Like, you don't even have to look at the numbers necessarily, but I think you can just probably see like as I scroll down, it's like a lot of red. And then, now we're starting to get to quite a bit more green as we get to more recent times. So, look, I was looking at him, and I have, again, like I said, I haven't really watched this grand final. I only got to watch Nuke. I only watched Nuke because I've just got off a fucking 15-hour flight while the grand final was happening. So I can't really comment too much on this grand final. But, obviously with the performance that he had at the major, coming into how he played here at EWC, I remember, obviously, we were in a position where we were almost kind of like, oh, does Techno stay on this team long term after the major cycle, right? That was a conversation going into the major final. And I think at that time, I think that was a valid conversation. But, obviously, again, like Mongolz and their understanding of the game or their scouting or whatnot has proven to be just better than everybody else in the sense that, when they brought in 910 and Mzinho, everyone was like, what the fuck are they doing? And then that turned out to be like the best change they've ever made. Obviously, Techno with a bit of a downturn in form, they stick by him and, he delivers. And I will say I definitely had the belief that he was always going to be able to be that player. Like, I think he was such a stellar, player, especially in the early days of the Mongolz. Like, when people are saying like, oh, he's mechanically not good and this and that, I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Like, he was always a good player. Like, he's always been a good player. It was a roles thing for sure for him. And he's stood up and delivered, and I'm really happy because, again, like I'm a big fan of Techno. I really love the storyline of him and Blitz and Mara coming together and forming this Mongolz roster. And so I didn't want to see him go. This has obviously been enough of a performance to give him an MVP. I think now third MVP of an Asian player ever. Yeah, 910 Jam Young Techno.
It's because everything that Mongolz does, like, defies expectations. Like, they pick up rookies and their team goes nuclear. Like, Techno has really bad form for ages, and then he wins a HLTV MVP. An Asian team hasn't won an S tier event in 15 years. Like, everything Mongolz does defies what the trends have been and defies every expectation. And all of our analysis and all of our opinions are built on 10 plus years of following the Asian scene in TAC FPS. So those are our expectations. And it's why, like, I guess people that just got into watching Mongolz or just got into the scene not that long ago, like, have this support where they're like, they just have this belief that things are going to work out. But a lot of our analysis, a lot of our expectations are informed on what we've already seen for a very, very long time. And Mongolz is breaking all of those trends and setting some new records. And it's incredible to watch.
I think for me, the most like the point which we need to address, just getting a little bit more nerdy here. Like, for Techno, we know how good he could be, right? Like, how individually gifted he was, even the old iterations of IHC. And I'm sure all of you remember this one round, the game where Cadian called Mongolz fucking noobs and everything, and Techno sneaks in from A bomb side, gets in towards heaven on the B bomb side. That's a round winning play. That's a match winning play, and he whiffs. And he just completely fucking shits to bed.
Yeah.
I feel like I've never seen Techno fuck up like that ever since. Right? He doesn't make a wrong move. He's so decisive in what he does, which is why he's such a good late game player. He's a good late game player. And that's what I've done right now, by the way. He doesn't entry anymore. He said in interviews like nothing's really changed, but you look at the numbers, I think Nero from HLTV, he drafted some numbers as well. He has been doing a lot of the T-side trading, and Mzinho just going in as the entry, which, by the way, if you guys remember, we had this conversation, like, I think a few months ago, where I said Mzinho has the best headshot rate on that team. Like, he's literally an aimbot when it comes to just, the first bullet accuracy. Let him be the hard entry, and let Techno be the guy who's doing, a lot of the trading. Let him work with the pack. And you look at the numbers right now. Techno in the first 6 months of this year, 0.96 rating. Techno this season, 1.17. That's a massive difference, right? Incredible stuff. So I feel like credit where it's due to maybe Mara, Blitz, and maybe Techno as well, because from what I understand, he does a lot of the micromanagement alongside Blitz being the veteran in that team.
Yeah.
But the fact that they switch this up and this is what we're getting out of it, I think is phenomenal. Also, the fact that, think about it, guys, the lowest rated player for this team for the longest time in their entire ascent, and the first S-tier event they win is this guy just popping the fuck off. Where is a ceiling for the individuals on this fucking team? It's insane.
100%. Like, and it's not. It's even against like better competition. It's like it was like a 0.96 rating, not even going that deep into tournaments, and now it's a fucking 1.17 in grand finals and shit. You know, in semi-finals, he's putting up like 1.5 against Vitality, like he was saying to us the other day, Bleh. Like it's absolutely ridiculous, and that is the difference. That is 100% the difference.
You know what? I think the biggest thing out of this is like the Mongols and how they've captured the zeitgeist of the Mongolian community. Again, you know, I'm sure you guys have seen the watch parties and the record numbers and this and that.
The numbers are fucking crazy, man. Like, I was looking at Meta last night, not MESA. Meta.
Shout out Meta.
Night.
We love Meta.
Yeah, shout out Meta. Holy shit, bro. 160K viewers. And that's not even including people in the watch parties. Like, fucking hell, man.
That is true. Like, I think,
in a 3.5 million population country, you fucking serious?
There's probably 100,000 people at the watch parties. Yeah.
Bro, like 5% of a whole country is watching this team? What the fuck, man?
And that has obviously had way more of an impact, like in terms of aura, than, you know, the original sort of like 2016 Mongolz when they were initially making that run at IEM Type A. Again, like, I know we keep sort of harkening back to that, but there was a very pertinent point that was made on Geographically Challenged like maybe 2 years ago when I was talking to Kay from Meta, and he said, you know, that Mongolz, like the Zilkenberg machine gun Mongolz, had in a way been like the inspiring team for the current day Mongolz teams. You think about what these guys are going to be for the players of, like, surely like over the next 10 years we're going to see some fucking crazy like talent come out. I mean, that's what I hope, you know what I mean? Like, we can't guarantee it necessarily. Again, it is a country of a small population. Who is to say that we're going to be able to find the lightning in the bottle again that the Mongols currently is? Like, that may never ever happen again. But if there is talent in Mongolia, in Counter-Strike, it will be found because of this current day Mongols. Like, there's going to be some 10-year-old kid that's like, I want to be Techno. And then in 10 years, he's going to be Techno 6K or Techno 10K. You know what I mean?
It's not even about talent for me. It's very obvious there's a ton of talent in Mongolia. I see talented players in Mongolia all the time. We watch even these tier 2 Mongolian teams. There's nothing but talent. It's really just a question of if they have the leadership and the experience. Like, the defining figures in Mongols for me are always like Blitz, Mara, like some of the more veteran players. Because I really think like there was nothing. I don't think that there's anything crazy special about like the Mazzino 910 pickups. I think it's the fact that I really think they could fucking pick up anybody. They just have a winning formula. They have really good leadership. They have a really good system. So obviously those players have worked well for them, but you know, I don't even think it's about the pickups or how much talent there is in the region specifically. I really think that it's down to like if you're going to be able to get more leadership figures to bring out more teams.
No, I definitely think that's a valid point.
And also, you can't also forget like how for we've had this conversation, right? We spoke about how for a region, you know, it could be a country, it could be a whole continent, so to speak. You need these inspiring tales, so to speak, right? And I've brought up the story many a time about Navi and how Ukraine didn't really have a blossoming esports scene until those, you know, bunch of five guys, Zeus, Edward, Markelov, you know, the Navi team came and just kind of broke down all barriers for the region. And then immediately a couple of years later, we had Dendi and the Navi team win TI, the first TI right there. And now we look at Ukraine as kind of like an esports powerhouse. Likewise, yesterday, I believe the Vietnamese channel, you know, the streamer who does a lot of like, you know, Counter-Strike coverage, I believe their viewership hit a peak they've never seen before for Counter-Strike.
Wow. So it's not just Mongolia, it's Asia, some more aspects in Asia. I mean, I have a lot of friends on anecdotally, I have WeChat, which for those that don't know is like the Chinese version of like WhatsApp, I guess, let's say. It's a bit more than that. It's like an all-in-one kind of app, but that's where they all talk. You know, that's like their messaging app. So anyone who's used WeChat kind of knows what it is. I have a lot of friends on WeChat because I've been to China a lot of times. I've worked with a lot of Chinese people, and I opened my WeChat after that game, and I was just like looking at like it's kind of like it's called Moments. It's like a feed like, you know, posts. And there's all these Chinese people are posting about the Mongolz, you know.
Yep.
So it's not just Mongolia that's reaping the benefit or getting the interests of the Mongols, right? I think it's all of Asia. I think there's definitely a lot of, you know, to be honest, like most people, I would say in Asia are fans of their national team, if that makes sense. So like Mongolians are fans of Mongolian teams, the Chinese people are fans of Chinese teams, Aussies are fan of, you know, FlyQuest, whatever. But at the end of the day, I would like to think that there's like this kind of like kindred spirit in a way that there isn't with other regions, right? Like if you're from Europe, you don't go, well, I mean, there's not really national-based teams in Europe quite so much anymore, but let's just say in the past, you wouldn't have gone, you know, let's go envy us, a French team, just because I'm a German guy. Like, it doesn't really work like that, I don't think, in Europe. Same for, like, North America. They're not necessarily quite as invested in maybe how the South American teams go, although there is, I feel, some element of that because, you know, there is a shared major qualification there. But certainly for us here in Asia, you know, I think that, you know, people are going to say, oh, Chinese fans aren't really fans of Mongolia, and that is true. Like, I know that there is some rivalry between those countries, but I know for a fact that there are Chinese people that are fans of the Mongols, and I know that there are Australian people that are fans of the Mongols, and I know that there are Mongolian people that are fans of Tai Lu. Like, I know this for a fact, so I think that's really cool. I think that's, like, one of the biggest, you know, aspects that Mongols also have been able to champion as well.
It's also, just as a small little aside, it's also... I think a result of the individuals on the Mongolz as well as the Tai Lu team. Like you see them in all these events and you can see, obviously G is a character, right? He's going to be running up in, but you can really see there's a sense of camaraderie between these teams. So even if you're like, you know, a Chinese Tai Lu fan or a hardcore Mongolian nationalist Mongols fan, but you see your favorite team just, you know, vibing with your enemy, so to speak. Right. At the end of the day, you're going to be like, okay, fine, we're all in this together, right? And I think that's something which the Mongols, in a way, you know, whatever soft power they've been unintentionally been exercising, I think it's really slowly. It's going to take a while, obviously, for the rest of Asia. Right? I'm talking about like Southeast Asia, South Asia, whatever you know region I want to talk about. But I can almost feel the tide slowly turning because, you know, people are starting to believe, and it's not about also particularly because Mongolia, again, they have nothing, man. Compared to, let's say, you know, somebody like China or South Korea, which have such a massive infrastructure, the Mongols guys, they come from virtually nothing. So for them to pull something off like this, it is inspirational, not just for the country, for the entire region. So there's so many dubs here, which we can fit into this episode from what they've done so far.
It's literally like the most fucking unlikely place that you could get 5 Counter-Strike players to become one of the best teams in the world. Like, it's
this
fucking
makes no
unreal.
sense.
Yeah, it does. It defies expectations. That was a great way of putting it earlier on. I think it was you, Pilski. Everything that you expect to happen, it's kind of like the opposite happens with.
Like we're fucking old and pessimistic, guys. Like, you know, we've been watching Asian teams. We've been watching Asian teams lose for more than 10 years.
Yeah, for 10 years.
More than 10 years. You know, like it's
15 for me.
Guys, we're used to being shit. Like we're like, oh, we're just gonna be shit again. Wait, are we actually back? Nah, we're not. There's no way we're back. Oh wait, we're actually back. Holy fuck.
Yeah. I was when I got like when I landed this morning, first thing I did was like open WhatsApp and check, and then I saw you guys were like chatting in our little Geographically Challenged group. And like, I don't think either of you specifically said that they had won, but like based on the conversation, I was like, did they win? You know what I mean? Like, and I was like, still kind of like, surely, you know, it felt like it should happen. You know what I mean? It felt like they were the big favorites going in, but I was like, I still didn't believe, you know, until I checked the score. I mean,
anything can happen in a final at the end of the day. But like, I think the great thing about that grand final was it followed the trend that made you very proud of them. Where it was like the first map was back and forth, and Xantaras was online and Woxic was online, and I was like, yo. I don't know if you're beating Eternal Fire when the two big guns are fucking going ham, and then they win that in OT, and then the next map is less close, and then the third map is a fucking blowout, and you're like, oh shit, they actually just like crushed their spirit, basically.
There was a point in time on the final map where I believe Eternal Fire were like 8-2 or something ridiculous in opening duels. Right, on their CD side, and then you have Senzu with a deagle, it was like 3K out of nowhere. Mazina with a deagle, 3K out of nowhere. It's like even they could do no wrong.
You were like, I remember you messaged in the WhatsApp. You were like, "It's done," and then I went on the scoreboard and I saw they lost pistol, and I'm like, Turtle Fire got T-side pistol on nuke, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if it is done. And then I saw like on the scoreboard, like the CT Forcewise says it just gets like 3 kills with the Deagle or something,
Outside,
and they win anyway. And it's like, oh, okay, that, you can't recover from that.
there are moments when you're watching a game, especially a finals. Like I remember like the FaZe Na'Vi game, right? Like that epic best of 5 in I believe in Cologne. And you just know at a point in the game where you're like, oh, it's happening. Like there's no stopping this. It might take a little bit of a while, but there's no stopping this. Like they're in the zone, they're locked in, they know they've won this, right? And you could feel that on that map. It was just beautiful to watch, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, that's a super important thing for Mongolz to harness, like, because we've talked about, like, and a lot of people, it is like the main topic of conversation is like, we've gone from like, you know, they're doing well to like, okay, we're choking in quarterfinals of playoffs, or we're choking in semifinals of playoffs, or we're choking at this point. And it's like, we just played a grand final where it was a fucking tight game with the 2 best players on the other team popping off, and they scrape a win in OT, and then they convincingly win more hard and get to that point where they just are straight up like dominating the third map. And that is what they need to learn. Like, you need to learn to know how like winning feels, you know, especially on a big stage like that, big pressure game. That is I think a transformational moment for this team. I really think that it should be.
Yeah. Look, I got a lot of things to say positive about the Mongolz and, you know, who that team is and how they've been able to represent the region. I think that's one of the biggest things for me, is that even despite all the sort of the bullshit that's happening in Mongolia, or the shenanigans and the chaos of that scene, somehow Mongols consistently are able to rise above that. I don't know what it is about this group of players or this organization that for some reason consistently seems to be able to just be the best of this region. You know, like
they got special people, man. That's the only explanation. Mara. They just have the right. It's Mara. It's probably the management staff that have a history already competing and, you know, support the players the right way. It's Blitz. It's the players that they've picked and the culture that they've built. That's the only explanation.
What I'm trying to say is, like, how easy would it be for this team to have been an Atox V2 or a Huns, you know, where they're just, you know, obviously I'm not implying that they're ever going to match fix or anything like that, but, you know, maybe they could have easily been a team that just like was decent, but like never really elevated themselves in any way, shape or form.
I mean, that points you know, early on, like these guys were on checkmate and shit like that. They weren't even like the level of an Atox. I was looking at these guys and I'm like, this is the Mongolian team that I haven't really heard of.
Yes.
And these these guys were like fucking, I don't know, Chinggis or like Eruption at one point. You know, they really were that team in the Mongolian scene. And now look how fucking good these guys are.
Well,
and like 910 and Mazzino were like no-namers, basically, you know, as far as like an international audience is concerned.
This might be a little, like, you know, sappy of me to bring up, but I saw a tweet from the Mongolz Twitter account. And when they won, they were like, you know, thanking all the parents and, you know, of the kids and everything. And you know what? Like, I think there's an element of truth in that, because I've met a lot of players, you know, different teams, even other Mongolian players and whatnot. And every time I've spoken to these kids on the Mongols team, like, they just seem to be just very well sorted out kids, right? They're very humble, quiet, very professional, funny. Like they're obviously very shy kids. We all know that, right? But they seem to just have their heads screwed on right. So yeah, shout out to the family. And also, again, man, Mara, you can't take it away from that guy, right? Like, if he doesn't exist, if he's not there in the scene, everything we're talking about, the Mongols and Mongolia and CS and Asia, it's dead. It's not happening. You got to understand, this guy is the reason. And I do want to make sure that, you know, it doesn't get lost in the noise and all the celebrations that Mara is the GOAT.
He's Master Splinter and the Mongols is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Except there's 5 of them instead of 4.
Well, the 5th one's Casey Foster. So I don't know how many of you guys remember Casey Foster. But
that's gone way over my head. I'm not going to lie.
He's the guy with hockey mask. The hockey mask. Remember the guy with hockey mask? Never mind. Never mind. It's fine.
I wasn't that into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, to be honest.
Fucking Ethan.
I thought you were literally talking about the player Casey Foster from the NA scene.
Wait. Is it Casey Foster or was it Casey? It was Casey, I think. Hold up.
Because there was a guy that used to be on like netcode guides or some shit with like days and shit called Casey Foster.
Casey Jones. Casey Jones, not Casey Foster. Why is it Casey Foster? That's weird. Casey Jones.
You're literally referencing the most like an NA player that is like 10 plus years out of relevance.
I know Casey Foster. Yes. I know Casey Foster. Yeah, it's not that Casey Foster. No, Casey Jones.
Right.
superhero.
Like a Source player from NA.
Anyway, the reason I bring that up, obviously, is like that's a pretty. It's sort of a transition into our next topic. Before we get there, I just wanted to highlight that I do think the Mongols are doing such a good thing for the Mongolian region, because obviously we're going to talk some negative stuff in a second. But I did actually have the chance to catch up with some of the Mongol staff in Riyadh. I don't know if do you know Haliuna, Bleh? That's Blitz's girlfriend, but she was also the talent manager for us when we did the RMR. Obviously, I know you didn't do that RMR, but she was the talent manager when I did the RMR in Mongolia. So I've known her since then, before she was even involved with the Mongols.
I don't think I've met her, no.
Yeah. But the reason I'm sort of bringing that up is that, like, I think, she and obviously the rest of the Mongols roster, or like staff roster, is like a big reason why this is like such a positive thing. These are very good people that I've worked with and that I haven't worked with, that you know what I mean. Like, I think it's really important for these guys to have like good people around them, and I'm glad that they've been able to build that kind of like support structure, because like I said, it's so easy, especially for people of this age, to just get in there, fucking ego head and whatever, and just become cooked units, basically, is my point. So shout out to the Mongols organizational staff as well. I think you've spoken to like the social media manager quite a bit and stuff like that in the past, right?
Yeah.
You always had good things to say. So
he was my liaison to, like, because he spoke very good English.
Right.
He was my initial contact for like the Mongols and like how they operate and everything.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I guess just basically pointing out that there is good people on the inside as well. That's not just the players, and I think that is worth some kind of mention. Also, by the way, like again, Mara, the way things are going in 2025, I don't know when we will eventually get to the HLTV awards at the start of 2026. I think definitely a coach of the year candidate at this point.
But you should be the coach of the year.
He should be at this
because carrying a whole region. I don't care if you've won majors or you're like Extaz on Vitality. What Mara's done is more impressive to me.
I agree.
In my opinion,
and there may be some bias there, but like the pieces that he's doing it with,
seriously think that.
The pieces that he's being able to find these wins with, like he's had a second at the major. He's obviously won EWC, which is a massive S tier tournament. Yes, they bombed out Cologne, but generally speaking, I mean, who's doing more with less?
It's still not bad. That's not even a bomb out. That's just like, you lost 2 series.
Yeah. I don't know. Obviously, we'll have to see how the rest of the year goes, but I think very much in the conversation, if not him, as far as the coach of the year is concerned. So shout out Mara one time. Shout out Mongols one time. Let's move on to something a little bit more negative in Mongolia.
Oh God!
Yeah, and I have some thoughts on this.
Why can't we just have like one episode where we're just happy, Jordan? Why can't we just be happy once? Just happy, just like happy out.
I slipped up and I said shout out MESA, not realizing we were actually shouting out MESA.
Shouting
I'm
at
even having
MESA.
a testy pop. Let's go.
No, I mean,
I'm so mad about this.
You can't be happy. You can't. There's no light without darkness, Bleh. Okay, I'm sure you understand that. There's no happiness without sadness. We all need to go through some pain to understand the good in life.
All right, go on.
Yeah. I think I have a lot of thoughts.
What's MESA been up to?
What's MESA been up to? What hasn't MESA been up to? Well, they haven't been paying their salaries. That's the one thing. Just putting that one out there. I've started to talk about it a little bit more, and there are other people that I'm sure have some things to say in this regard. But at least in my experience, I am owed some money by MESA that they have now started to ignore. They are just not replying to me. So that's one thing. I think it's worth talking about at this point. It's been more than 6 months. But the actual topic for today is that Valve has stripped MESA of their ranked status for Nomadic Masters because of some shenanigans that they've been up to. So I don't know if you saw, I'll just do a quick recap of what happened. Basically, Messioso, he put out a tweet, and he didn't actually name MESA, although it came out after the fact, that an organization or a tournament organizer had basically been reaching out to certain teams and saying, we'd like to invite you to come and play in our tournament, but it's a $10,000 entrance fee, basically. And that $10,000 entrance fee would get you to I believe, 32-team open qualifier, which was on LAN. And then of that 32-team open qualifier, I believe 8 would then qualify to the main event. So basically, you were paying $10,000 to go to a 32-team open qualifier. Now, I do have some conflicting thoughts on this, because obviously my first initial reaction was like, what the fuck? You can't do that. You can't basically say, yeah, we're going to charge $10,000 for an entrance fee, which I think is valid based on the expectations of where we're at as a scene. but I almost don't hate the idea of
No.
teams investing money or having an investment, having an entrance fee to play in some tournaments. This is what's happening. Is this not what happens in like Fragadelphia? I don't know. But don't you have to pay to play Fragadelphia?
If you're gonna pay,
like $10,000 is extreme. But
if you're gonna get people to pay, you better fucking put on a great event. And,
that's where the actual thing is. That's where it comes apart for me.
No, this is so wrong because. Okay, go on.
I'll just say, I think if you're gonna do it, I could get past that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not super against the idea, and maybe you can convince me.
I can't get past that.
You can change my opinion. I'll give you a second. But if you're gonna charge people to play your tournament, you better fucking pay people what you owe them. Okay? That is just having your cake and eating it, as far as I'm concerned. Now, I will say I have some sympathy for MESA in that 1xBet was one of their biggest sponsors, probably their biggest sponsor, and that is now banned in Mongolia. So they would have lost a fuck ton of income from that. Okay? All of their plans in the bin, probably because of that. And I really sympathize with that. But at the end of the day, if you want to be a Premier TO, if you want to be inviting Tier 1 talent to your events, Tier 1 teams to your events, you have to be delivering on the basics. You have to run a decent tournament that doesn't have massive fucking delays, and you have to pay the people that turn up to do the work or to compete in your tournament. That's it. That's the bare minimum. So if you're not doing that, and then you're going and asking for handouts, essentially asking teams to pay to run your tournament, what the fuck is going on there? Anyway, your turn, Bleh.
The VRS point system structure is the replacement kind of the open circuit we had, right? It's still kind of an open circuit, and we've already spoken about how this is something that can be abused by TOs. How is nothing but abuse of the VRS system? Because obviously teams do want to, they have they have VRS points. It's very relevant. We also know right now that, a lot of teams are shying away from events like the Blast events, right? Because of the format and everything. In fact, I think it was Nico or Monacy who was like, yeah, we prefer Fisher over Blast events right now. So there's a lot of like flux at the moment where teams are just trying to accrue. I mean, you have fucking, like S-tier names, names you all know playing in events like tiny little lands happening in Poland and fucking Fragadelphia and everything, right? So these points are so needed right now. And for MESA to come in with a 10K thing, sure, there are a couple of orgs who can probably pay the 10K. What about the ones who can't? What about, if there was another Mongolz team who had no fucking money and who couldn't sign up because they don't have fucking 10K, like they don't even have fucking 10,000 the Mongolian, whatever the currency is. What if they don't have that? So they don't know how to play?
100%.
That for me, look, I get it. There are some financial constraints and everything right now, but the way they approach this, in my opinion, is in such bad faith that I have absolutely no qualms at Valve stripping them off this thing. And I hope, listen, I don't want them to go away. I think TOs disappearing is a bad thing overall for the scene. We've seen Yalla, completely shut their doors and over $1 million over there. We've had multiple, like I think it was Guild Esports, the Beckham thing, they shut them as well. It's a rough year overall for a lot of organizations and TOs and everything. So I don't want the MESA to go away. I think they've done a lot of good overall for the region, for the country as well. But I do hope that they kind of learn a lesson. And sure, you've lost your main sponsor, but you need to pivot, right? That's life. It sucks, but you need to pivot and you need to somehow try to find a way to make things work. But this ain't it. And I hope it's a good, I hope it's a nice little slap in the face and they kind of wake up and they kind of mix things around. Because I don't think they're bad people.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think there are some good people in this organization. I think there's definitely been some poor decision making that has happened. I don't know where along the line, who's making these decisions, whether it's coming from top down or whether it's coming from operational staff or whatever. But I think MESA have made a couple of fumbles over the last sort of, let's say, 6 months or so that, as we can see, is now starting to come to light. And it's really unfortunate because, we as a trio, as a podcast, we're big supporters of MESA, but I unfortunately don't feel like I can really be that, obviously with the outstanding money that's owed to me and others and stuff that I'm seeing. I just don't think that they're operating in a way that I want to support at this stage, which is quite unfortunate because I want to see tournament operators in Asia, and MESA was one of the first ones that was really like kind of on the come up, returning to form as Asian Counter-Strike started to grow. So I definitely don't think it's over for them, but I definitely think there's a lot of work that needs to be done to kind of restore that faith, in the same way that maybe it is for Sky Esports, who, by the way, have just been noticeably very, very silent over the last 6 months or so. Don't really want to be seeing MESA go that way. It is possible that they will. We'll have to wait and see. The only reason I want to just sort of circle back on the pay to play thing. The only reason that I'm kind of like not anti it, like I understand the arguments against it, but the one thing that I will say on this is that like I think that is a model. It may not be the way that it should be done, but I think there is definitely some value in a model where teams or organizations or players have more of an investment in putting money forward to making these tournaments happen, whether that is paying their own way, whether that is covering their own hotels and flights and stuff like that. You know, obviously that means they're not putting money into the prize pool, putting money into the tournament itself, but at least taking some of that burden off of the tournament operators, I think is somewhat required, at least in our smaller regions. You know, I'm looking at things like local domestic tournaments in ANZ. They're just not going to run if you're expecting the tournament operator to foot prize money, production bill, talent bill, prize pool, hotels, flights, food, water. Like these, like, dude, I've seen at ANZ events, these players rock up, you know, and they're like, "Oh, where's the water?" And it's like, get the fucking water out the tap, mate. We don't have, you know, we don't have $500 in the budget to buy bottles of water for you guys. Like that's just not this. So, you know, it is. I understand, like, obviously in this MESA example, it's like extreme. Like $10,000, I think is just fucking ridiculous. And the way that they went about it as well, because as far as I understand, they headhunted certain teams and said, you know, that was the actual issue. It wasn't that it was like, this is an open call. Anyone that wants to come, $10,000 sign up fee. I actually think that would have not been an issue in most people's minds, or at least in terms of the letter of the law, it wouldn't have been an issue. But the fact that they specifically headhunted certain teams and said, will you come? If you do, you will pay $10,000. That's where this actually started to break down. You guys can obviously read the article for yourselves. As you can see there, it's on HLTV. This is actually quite old news, or 5-day old news, I guess, which in the life cycle of Counter-Strike is pretty old news. But I do think like that there needs to be a shift in mentality outside of Tier 1. Like, tournament organizers cannot afford to operate in the way that Tier 1 organizers do. You will not be having local tournaments if you're expecting everybody to just fund your everything.
Here's my caveat.
You know? Like,
and here's my answer. I agree with you 100%. Like, you know, you hit the nail on the head right there. But if you look at something like Sky Esports, for example, before everything went to shit, I kept saying this. If you're a new TO coming up and, you know, you can't compete with your ESLs or the Blasts or the PGLs of the world. You just can't go for it like straight off the bat like that. Make it small. And I think it's very, very doable, right? You juggle your budgets. Oh, you can't do it for 16 teams. Make it 8. 8's a little too much. Make it 6. Make it 4. Doesn't fucking matter. Come up with a good fucking product right there. That's on you as a professional, as a TO, to balance your budget and try to come up with the best with what you have right there. Don't overextend. Don't be in a scenario where you haven't paid people, not just your talent, but the players or even your fucking employees for that matter. I'm obviously talking about Yalla right now and how they fucked up, but I don't want that to be the way for, you know, that to be the case with other TOs. Like, you know, we have MESA, then we had, you know, Sky Esports, for example, and I'm 100% sure Sky Esports is never going to be coming back ever, if you ask me. By the way, I've heard a couple of rumblings as well on the grapevine, and I just don't want it to happen because, you know, we're in a bit of a renaissance of Asian Counter-Strike right now. We need these TOs.
Yes,
we really need them. So please don't fuck this up.
I agree. I think honestly the VRS is kind of a problem for this now because it is just open to fuckery, which is obviously what's happening here with MESA. But I totally, because I'm from OS, the same as Jordan, and I agree. Like I think for these local scenes, like, guys, we can have one thing or the other. We can have like online, like low budget, free, like community casters, like someone sitting in GoTV, and you know, like one admin who kind of knows what they're doing, maybe. Or we can have like maybe like there is some, I guess, like wiggle room for expanding the pie, so to speak, of like if you had more input from players or organizations in some of these local scenes, you could actually end up with a better product. But I think the thing is that it needs to be someone that's trusted, and it needs to be like open and transparent. It can't be like, we need $10,000 for stuff. You know, like it needs to be like, well, this is like what we're actually spending our money on.
And then you need to actually deliver on it as well, because what's to say they don't just take the $10,000 from, you know, 5 or 10 teams. Let's say, cool, $100,000, easy peasy. Start paying off their debts.
Never happened.
And then they just fucking disappear. Before. Like that.
This has never happened before. People never do this.
Yeah, literally. Like I just don't think that there's like a a right way to do that in terms of teams putting that much money towards running a tournament. Like I can see how it works in the case of like these more like local lands where it's like, oh, you know, it's like, you know, $200 to play or something like that, and that covers like venue fee or something like that. You know what I mean? That's how it's worked for a very long time in Australia. I'm sure it's worked like that around the world, right? Where back in the day, you know, teams had to pay. You would have had to pay entry fees for like CG for stuff like that, right?
Bro, even like national even like nationals and or like state-based qualifiers, and then going to international events and stuff. There's definitely entry fees.
You would pay like I can't really remember, but you would pay like maybe like let's say $250 as a team to play in Cybergamer.
Not just entry fees, like no one's giving you a flight, bro. Like
you would pay your flight, you pay your accom, and then you'd go and play the event, and you'd pay all of it, and then the prize pool would be like maybe $1,000, which is like 50% of the entry fees, for example, and the other fee, like money went to like costs of running the servers and the tournament admins and stuff like that, and people were fine with that. And but all of a sudden now, like 5-10 years later, we're like, yeah, we need everything for free. It's like, bro.
Bro, 10 years ago, like 2015, I think it was literally 2015, I went to a fucking LAN in another state in Australia. The org owner was a tradie. I think it was a bricklayer or something. We all got low-cost carrier flights that were shit as fuck. Like, I had no leg room. And I slept on a player from that city's floor. And then we went and we won the LAN. And I don't think after buying dinner and like drinks that we even had any money after that, you know? Like there was nobody left over. We just did it for the experience, and we were like, yeah, fuck yeah, I want to LAN. And like literally last year I watched the VOD of that and I was like, hell yeah, that was awesome.
Pilski's life peak then.
Meanwhile, Mongolz is fucking winning EWC, like Mazzino's a fucking billionaire.
The good news is that at least the Mongolz will probably get paid for EWC, unlike some of their previous events.
Mazzino at 19 versus me at 19.
Can you see like I won't lie, I am enjoying the some of the Instagram stories that these guys are posting. Like I'm enjoying like Blitz just being a bit of a fucking demon. So I've heard from some of the Mongolian fans that Blitz has always been this. It just he doesn't do it openly or on Twitter or with the Western audience, so to speak. But just talking smack, just not all in good fun. Techno and Mazzino, I'm really enjoying, and maybe not Techno. Techno's still the same, but like Senzu, for example, right?
Techno's just
I'm really enjoying seeing he is a really chill guy, and I'm just enjoying the personalities coming out from these guys, right? It's not just about Mazzino making a couple of jokes. They are personalities. They are interacting with the fans, and I just feel like that was something which I felt was lacking for the longest time for this team. But now that we're seeing it come out from them, I think it's really going to be good for their brand, because they're already fucking massive. Probably the 5 most famous people in Mongolia right now, if you ask me.
Possibly, yeah.
I'm not even. This is no hyperbole. It could be a fact. And if they're able to build their brand a little bit more, and interact with their international audience, because they're loved by literally fucking everyone, right? You can't hate these kids. They can legit be not just really good Counter-Strike players, but just secure their future and just be these really big personalities and ambassadors of the game. So yeah, good job, Mongolz.
I love that. That was like you ever seen those methods for like giving someone feedback or criticism or something like that? It's like a sandwich. You start with the good, then you do the bad, and then you finish with the good. That was great from you, Bleh. We've actually nailed it. Well done. One thing I wanted to quickly point out, I've just received on our YouTube comments, which you can't really see it. This is from Shiro Yasha 8669 4 minutes ago.
Hey, shout out Shiro one time.
Yeah, you're gonna love this, Bleh. It says, "Podcast fell off. Bleh needs to be more racist." So. That's the feedback that we're getting.
God damn it. Not today, guys. Not today. I'm feeling really unracist today. I'll be more racist tomorrow.
We don't want to talk about what's going on in the Chinese Sea right now? Would that help you a little bit?
Are we doing this? Are we talking about it?
We should mention it. I think we should mention it just because people are going to expect us to address it. The reason that I mean, or that I say mention it as opposed to discuss it, is because I actually don't think that there's that much for us to discuss at this stage. I know there are some people that are heavily invested in this, and it's been discussed in our Discord server. Obviously, for those that are unaware, I guess I'll just quickly give the broad strokes of it. Z4kr has found himself in a bit of hot water with regard to some allegations that he's been. How do I put this without being too over the top about it? He's been sleeping around. Let's just say that much. Behind his partner's back, and he's been these are allegations. Let's just put it out there. I don't know. There hasn't been anything official necessarily, but there's a lot going on in like the Chinese internet world around what Zach has been up to, and it's obviously a lot of it's not very nice stuff necessarily. Some things have been said about Mercury as well, but again, there's not I haven't seen any like official, like I can't go on HLTV or on a reputable website and like look at an article and say this is what has happened, and that's where we're kind of gonna, I think, draw the line a little bit for Geographically Challenged to kind of discuss stuff. Like we obviously do talk about rumors, roster rumors, event rumors and stuff like this, but this is obviously starting to kind of get into like a bit of drama territory, and it's like I don't really want to be that.
We're not TMZ boys.
Yeah,
come on.
Yeah, but and also like, look, dude, we could easily make an episode and just like farm a lot of clicks and everything, but I feel like that's not something any of us really enjoy doing. But listen, I hope the allegations are fake. I mean, are not real, but from what I've heard, the Z4kr thing seems pretty really legit.
Yeah.
And without going into any details, from what I understand, they are LinVision right now. This is something I've heard as well, that they are kind of considering like how to handle this, right? And the only way they can really handle this from the image of their club, of their team, the fans and everything, would basically be to replace Z4kr, which is very unfortunate. But also, if they go for it, totally get it, right?
Like in the server, it's also really not doable at the moment.
Yeah, like there's no one that can replace him.
Yeah. So for me, like I feel like the only discussion I would want to have about this situation or situation would be basically post everything. And we see where LinVision stand as a team and talk about it from a Counter-Strike aspect. That's the only thing I would like to address, in all honesty. But if what Z4kr is doing is, if it's really true, which seems like it, if it is dope, like, oh man, that's just get the fuck out of the scene. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, and for like all of those things that we've heard about this specific situation, there's been a million people that I've heard these kind of things or worse things about. There's even people that are active that I've heard way worse things about, that are either active players or, doing other things in the scene, like currently, so like at the end of the day, like even these kind of things don't always necessarily change whether you can be involved in the scene or the space. And frankly, people kind of forget about this kind of stuff a lot of the time. So just kind of is what it is, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I guess again, just to reiterate, our stance on it is that we will address it if there's implications in the server, which at this stage there is none, and there's no official news. So that's what we have to say about the Z4kr Mercury situation, if there even is a situation at this stage. Just before we wrap the episode up, we do have one more question. This was from Murazrai. He asked us a couple of questions last week. This one I actually really like. He says, why has Japanese CS survived better than Korean CS? And I think, for me, I mean, that was not exactly word for word, but that was more or less the question. And for me, the one of the big reasons I think that Japanese CS has done a little better, like obviously Japanese CS is not a big thing at all, but there is some CS happening in Japan, whereas it seems like there's none happening at all in Korea. I think Korea is just so heavily invested in the Riot ecosystem that like there was no room left at all for CS. Right? I mean, obviously Pilski can speak from experience having been in Korea, that, Riot have a massive footprint there. Like League of Legends is huge. That's where, Korea as a country and as a region has been absolutely massive internationally in that game. And they have a lot of, investment in Korea as a country. And so that has obviously followed suit as well into Valorant. And that's where, a lot of that transition has happened from Counter-Strike to Valorant, and it's like kind of like just taken over as the TAC FPS in that country in particular. So I think a lot of it just comes down to Riot, which, for better or worse, they have kind of got a stronghold on Korea.
I mean,
which they don't necessarily as much in Japan, I guess, just to tie it in there.
Well, they do though, like that. Not to they be do, like but they don't have not that, to be a cunt. Like I'm not trying to say like especially being from OS, where like I mean but like I don't see it as any different. I don't see Japan and Korea as being different from my perspective. I'm not from Japan. I'm not across like what teams are competing in CS or what events are happening in CS in Japan. But for me, Valorant has captured the Japanese ecosystem and the Korean ecosystem. Like I do not get any eyes on anything Japan CS related at all. I only see, like, I'm about to go to Japan in a couple of days for a Valorant event. Like, we're doing Pacific Finals in Tokyo. It's sold out. There's 10K people coming to watch Pacific Finals, bro. You know, the Japanese teams have huge brands like Zeta Division, DFM.
The guys that used to play CS.
Riddle
Laz.
Order. Yeah,
Laz is like one of the most famous people.
Laz is retired now.
I know, but look at him as a brand. Where he went
Laz
from as a CS player, he might have had maybe 1,000 Twitter followers. Now he's like, I think 300,000 or something.
Huge and iconic in Valorant. So for me, to answer your question from my own perspective, and I'm not trying to be like a cunt about someone's scene that I'm not like I have super in-depth knowledge on. For me, there's no difference. I think Japan and Korea are both entirely captured by Valorant, 100%.
I feel I agree with Pilski when it comes to the esports side of things, which is obviously what we're talking about. And I feel like the reason, Elfish, like you might think that Japan has a little bit more CS over there, and I feel it's because if you look at South Korea, apart from MVP. The MVP PK, the solo and the old boys, apart from them, and then you had the next generation of MVP guys, the MVP team itself. I'm talking about Zeta, Zion, Stacks, all those guys, right? There were no one else. When I say no one else, I'm not even talking about a team. I didn't even know any players out there, right? And once these guys moved on to Valorant, it felt like just left a vacuum, which was just not filled by anyone else. For Japan, though, I feel like there were players, not really good players, not like the team, so to speak.
A couple of other teams, yeah.
And you remember people like Saoshi, for example. I think a lot of legacy figures in Japan who still care more about Counter-Strike. Are they competing? Are they professionally involved? Probably not, but just fans of the game, right? And I feel like that's the only remnant, I guess, of the Japanese scene, which is still more than the South Korean scene. So I agree with Pilski when it comes to the esports side of things, but from Jordan's perspective, I can see why there are more some interest in Japan, at least.
There's like a little community level tournaments here and there, like weekly.
That's about it
in Japan. Whereas I don't really see that in Korea. That may be because like I don't know if you guys, obviously you guys don't like jump into the Discord all that often, but we kind of have like almost these like regional correspondents, let's just say. Murazrai obviously being a big one from Japan, he obviously is kind of like keeping us updated with what's happening in Japan. And there's a couple of guys from Mongolia who are like, this is what's happening in Mongolia, and there's a guy from Thailand and stuff like that, they're like obviously a little bit more invested in those respective scenes. And that's where actually I get now a lot of the talking points from these episodes ahead of time is like, someone's told me like, oh, there's a change happening in Thailand, for example, or this or that. We don't have anyone from Korea, for example, in the Discord that is like in depth in the Korean ecosystem, and that may be because there is no Korean ecosystem.
I mean, I just don't see any Counter-Strike presence at all. Like I go to the PC bangs and stuff like that. It's League and Valorant, like StarCraft.
That's what I'm saying.
League, Valorant, StarCraft, and like MMOs. That's all I see. I don't see anything Counter-Strike related at all in Korea, and I haven't been closely involved in the Japanese scene. And it's also worth mentioning as well that we just there is a massive language barrier there. Like it's hard sometimes to crack into these scenes and like understand them unless you know somebody. So it's great that we have some people to like keep us informed about what's going on in some of these communities and these scenes. Yeah. But like I said, from my perspective, I think Japan is huge in Valorant. Like if you're in love with CS, I think you're in love with international CS. Like, and then you have some local scene stuff that like maybe you have friends in and like you enjoy it for the people that are involved in it. But in terms of like relevancy in a game, like I'd be all in on Japanese Valorant right now. That shit is huge and it's really exciting. Right. It's really hype and the fan base is crazy behind it.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing that Valorant got right, that Counter-Strike kind of got wrong, especially in Asia. Was like that regional aspect of it, which we're kind of almost like seeing a little bit from the Mongolz. Like the Mongolz is doing it, but not the game. Does that make sense?
China's a big enough market to do both, but Mongolia is not covered well by Valorant at all. Like it is not. Like they got shoved into SEA, and that because Riot has not captured that market well. The Mongolian teams are having a harder time breaking in there, even though there has been a couple of them. There has even been a Mongolz team and an IHG team that were playing in SEA and things like that. So yeah.
Anyway, let's wrap it up there. Thanks, Murazrai, for the question. Shout out to the guys in the Discord for being the regional correspondents. Actually, really appreciate that. Those of you that are doing that probably know who you are. Any final thoughts, guys? Like before you say goodbye, or
Mongolz is goated. We were all wrong. I apologize to every single Mongolian fan. I am going to cry with shame tonight, and I'm so upset that a team from an Asian region has won an S-tier event for the first time in 15 years. I don't know if I'll be able to live this down. So that's all I really wanted to say.
Fair enough.
I did cry tears of joy, and today I am probably the nicest version of me that you'll see in a long time. I will get back to being a pissed off Irish racist next episode.
Yeah. After Mongolz fucks up at Fisher or something, they'll go to Fisher.
And then I'm just gonna go in again. This team is just a fluke team.
Waste of time, waste of space.
But till then, they are the goats.
Yep. All right. Let's wrap it up there. Thanks, guys, for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. buymeacoffee.com/Elfishguy. If you're so inclined, shout out Skinclub on time. We'll catch you in the next episode. Peace. Hey guys, just at the end of that video and heading into 2025, I want to give a massive shout out to Jean, who has been a big supporter of mine on buymeacoffee.com/Elfishguy. She's been a member for over 12 months. And if you'd be interested in supporting my content and getting this content grind going, then head over there as well and check it out. Thank you very much.